Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Welcome back. It's me. I just finished yoga. The hair, for those of you just listening, not watching, it was a wise move. I am building off of what we talked about in the last episode. If you haven't heard it, you should check it out. It's all about business as connection, as community. And I think all of these next few are going to be building on top of each other. Why? Because like everything we've built thus far seems to be falling apart. And for anyone who's been approaching business and life the way I have or wants to, like, this is our time to shine, my friend. I talked last time about, and we'll link in the show notes, and if you're watching, there's probably a link floating around somewhere right now. You get to do whatever the fuck you want, always and forever. Let's just like start there. The reason I have been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, I've started, what's my phrase, my catchphrase? I've started, saved, or shuttered over 50 businesses. And I mean, it's been a few more since I made that up. I'm firstly really bad at being told what to do. Secondly, I like to feel like I have freedom. And both of those things don't always make you a great employee. Now, the thing is, that's even shifting. I had someone ask me in terms of work, well, what do you think you should do? Whatever you think is best. And I thought, that's a really interesting way to lead, right? And that's everything that I'm always talking about. But today, what we're going to get into is how can you actually create an environment where people feel like they can really succeed? They can do what they do best in a way that feels supportive, safe, accessible for them. But like, we're all getting it done, right? And as work continues to change, as business continues to evolve, as the way that we communicate and relate and the tasks that we're doing, and I mean, I think everything is shifting. And again, for anybody who's been approaching it like myself, like entrepreneur almost becomes the umbrella under which everything you do falls, is protected, doesn't fall. You know what I'm trying to say? And no longer, I think, are we going to look at these lifelong careers and employment structures as the definition of our identity, at least in the United States. I know for most of the rest of the world, work is whatever they do so that they can enjoy everything that happens when they're not working. Us Americans are just a little bit slow. So how do you create an environment where someone like you, someone like me, someone over here, and those people over there all have the same opportunities, because we are completely different individuals with different motivations, different reasons for being here, different skill sets, different ideas about how it should all get done, right? You want to win. Your team wants to win. Your customers want to win. Your community wants to win. Like, everybody deserves to win. And when everybody wins, synergy occurs. We are all able to not just create success, but really like leverage that success. And it feels fucking awesome. Like, I don't understand this idea. And I'm not a very competitive person. I was just talking about this with a girlfriend of mine about like being in the front row of the yoga class. If you know, you know. I've never really been motivated by like that kind of group thing, but I recognize most people are, right? And there's something about working within a team, working within a large group of people that can really influence the way that we're managing that experience of groupthink, right? Like, so this isn't about pretending like none of that matters and that some of us don't love the performance aspect of work and of community and of success. But when we talk about building a business, it can be a great metaphor to think about it like a living, breathing ecosystem. So again, we kind of talked a little bit about this last week in terms of business as connection and as a way of fostering this style of community and communion with the people that you're working with. Today, we're really going to talk about like that physical space, the actual sandbox, which you get to play in. And one of the things I hope I'm not going to do too much of today is talk about corporate and how corporate makes that work. But again, it's really worth recognizing where we've all been, how we've all been programmed to think and work with each other, and where we're going, because it's totally normal and to be expected. We're going to take what we know and bring it with us, even though we all continue to talk about doing something completely fucking different, right? So again, there are complex partnerships, and I forget who was saying it. I'm sure you've heard this. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. At some point in the inception and then building and then growth of your business, whatever it is you want to take seriously, you're going to need to rely on other people. I can say very accurately, I don't know that person who's been able to do it all by themselves, but of course I don't know them because they've been doing it all by themselves, right? Like, most people experience a barrier to their success because of the frustration and very real resentment they've experienced working with others. There has been disappointment, there has been failure, there could have even been like theft. I mean, we've all probably, anybody listening to this, have experienced something really fucking shitty that's happened as a result of working with other people. And you were correct. It is easier. It is faster, like I just said, and it will get done, quote unquote, better. I'm air quoting that because it's kind of like you're suggesting the way that you do it is the best way of doing it. But yes, all of those things will be true when you do it yourself. And there's only so many hours in the day, so many days in the week, right? I am going to recognize the systems and structure that corporate has traumatized us all with, and hopefully offer you some different angles so that you can see different ways of leveraging what it is you do and you like to create an environment where not just you get to be successful, but everybody that you're in partnership with, right? So we're going to recognize the inherent chaos in creation and release the need to control it. Because what we're going to do, and what I'm always ideally offering you, is a blueprint for your success. These different tips and tools and tactics so that you can every day draft out the system, the blueprint, the architecture for your system of success, whatever that might look like. Because I actually firmly believe, and I've seen this 1,100,000 times, once you figure out what makes you tick and how you can then work with others and figure out what makes them tick so that you have this living, breathing ecosystem, you can do it over and over and over again. You get to be this world builder. You get to have like truly a kingdom with all of these different metaverses. The metaphors are smushing into each other, but the point being, if you enjoy this and you want to be somebody who's got a lot of different things going on, you get to be. Or if you want to grow something so big, it gets to be your only thing, you can do that too, right? Another jargony term I'm going to talk about today is culture. And that term, just like the 1900s, died with the 90s because one of the problems with corporate is I mean, look, don't get me started. There's like 1,000,000 absolutely. I would say one of the overarching themes is that it's completely bullshit and disingenuous and feels absolutely fake and a little bit rapey, right? And there are a million reasons for that. We'll talk about some of them today. But when organizations talk about culture, it feels like lip service. It feels like absolute make-believe theater. And we're all just like kabuki actors, right? Wearing like weird makeup and not using our real voices because they were all men. Anywho, culture is not your mission statement. It's not like pizza and beer on Friday afternoons. It's not good vibes only. To me, culture is the soil within which everything can grow. According to a study from Deloitte, 94% of executives and 88% of employees believe what differentiates a workplace, what makes an ecosystem its own living, breathing entity and not just like this swamp-like spread, is workplace culture. And only 12% of executives actually think their companies are driving culture. So what does this mean? It means that despite the fact we recognize what makes this workplace desirable or unique or successful is the culture, less than 1 in 10 people actually even know what the fuck that means. This is the dissonance. This is the gap. This is the reason it feels gross, okay? If you want to retain your people, if you want to attract your people, if you want to innovate, if you want to succeed, there's something about this concept of culture that we're going to need to figure out, right? And like maybe even define and create a little bit of structure around. This is how you create an environment that fosters success. It is that blueprint, it is that design schematic that expects excellence and therefore creates it and everything that it does. So, a few things to just kind of think about as we like get balls deep in this is, what do you reward? Like, what do you personally reward? That may or may not be the same thing as this business that you're creating or potentially leading. I do think business is personal, probably because I run all my own businesses, but also like I warn people when they start working with me, I can be pretty intense. I am committed to excellence for myself. I don't know what excellence means to you, but it can be experienced very intensely from those around me because I am like hyper focused on what it is that I'm doing, the thing that I'm doing in that moment, right? What do I reward? I reward focused completion. I'm a big believer in the accountability behind my work, not necessarily even the results, because I recognize as long as I'm committed to that process of excellence, the results are going to be the results. And you'll often hear me say stuff like money is a byproduct of passion, because I do what I love and I'm committed to that process of work, the results tend to be pretty great and arguably unexpected. But that's why I'm not so hyper focused on them, because whatever they might be, that's a learning opportunity that I then just take right back to the very beginning and repeat over and over again. That's kind of like this blueprint for success, this system that I'm talking about. I don't ever need to know how it's going to work because I've done this enough to recognize that it materializes, that emerges from the swamp in my ecosystem by simply like doing my absolute fucking best in any given moment. Now, if you've been watching these podcasts for a little while, you know my best can vary wildly based on the environment that I'm in, the nutrients and resources that I have available. I'm getting totally lost in the weeds and just talking about myself here. So I'm going to get back to my fucking notes. But what do you reward? Like, I reward my own personal effort. It's not about productivity. It's not about getting shit on the to-do list done. Like, I've got 6 things that technically are higher priority than recording this, but this is what I wanted to do today. And this felt like the most excellent thing that I could do today. So it's getting fucking done. What do you tolerate? We're going to get more into this in this episode, but if you find yourself talking about a lot of drama or problems, what do you tolerate? If you find yourself virtue signaling or bragging or performing, what do you tolerate? These are behavioral engagements that are demonstrative of your organizational culture. What do we celebrate? What do we accept? And lastly, what do people whisper about after the Zoom calls? Have you ever had somebody forget to turn their microphone off on a Zoom call? It's pretty funny. One of my clients actually had one of their board members not turn the microphone off after a board meeting and just lay into the leadership team. Someone lost a job. It wasn't the board member. It's really interesting when you truly listen, especially as a leader and as the builder of this ecosystem. And I don't mean like in conversation. I mean, sit back and observe. Another client of mine, we've been talking about his space for reflection and just how important it is. You know, a lot of us are doing this across digital platforms, whether it's Microsoft or Slack or Zoom, social media. There's so many ways you can listen in on these conversations, and not from like a voyeuristic, like negative perspective, just to truly listen and see like, what is the team talking about? A tactic of mine, especially coming in as a consultant, which is different than coaching, you're coming in and telling experts in an organization how to do something and what to do and when to get it done by. It's a pretty tenuous place to be, right? And because you don't know, you're not in the club. And I would find the person who was the most influential member of that organization. They tend to know everything that's happening with everybody. They are very excited to tell you who's doing what when they really come in, why they took that sick day, like what the leader's going through, who's getting the, where got personal drama in their relationships, so on and so forth, right? Like that person is going to be very telling in terms of what are people talking about. And by building some trust and likability with people who truly enjoy these connection points in these conversations, you will learn a lot about what's going on. But mainly, to get back to it, BZ, the culture. What do people value? What do people tolerate? And how is it all discussed? As you think about those questions, it could be in your own life, in your own business, in your own work. You do you, boo. Just take some notes about things that maybe you're not stoked about, because that's where this transformation is going to begin. And as per always, it's not for me to tell you what to do, but at the end of this episode, I'll give you a few different tactics to try. And those data points that you come up with, the places where you're like, you know what? Like, I'm really not into that anymore. That's where you're going to get to apply some of these and have a play, right? Okay. So as we all know, numbers are neutral. They don't have feelings, but they can tell a really, really powerful story. So one of the things we all hate about corporate are KPIs, key performance indicators, these metrics, right? And one of the things I get to do with all of my clients is literally swipe off half of the bullshit they have on their plates that are absolutely overflowing. And the number one requirement from that is delegation. Some of those things we probably just don't need. We do not have an appetite for them anymore, nor do we want to eat that bullshit. But most of those things are on their plate for a reason. They need to get done and somebody's got to do them. And my client ain't doing it no more. My client also, kind of like you, kind of like me, fucking hates corporate and everything that comes along with it. The scripts, the metrics, the performance reviews, the cookie cutter way of doing everything that feels like it's fucking bullshit, right? But here's the thing that corporate does. It scales. How? It systemizes. I call this, I purposefully call this the franchise mentality, because small business owners tend to be a little more open to franchise because they think they're small businesses than corporate. It is simply this ability to scale, which means you grow exponentially. And scripts, measurements, reviews, checklists, they are only as robot-like or condescending as your culture is. If I look at a checklist as a very fucking valuable tool to help me remember all the little things I don't give a fuck about. We talked a little bit about that in the details episode. And for those of you listening, The Loop is officially on Substack. Find me, NicoleBZ.substack.com. The Loop and Everything are finally synergizing. And we talked a lot about the details just over the last couple of weeks, because that was a crucial component of the last few weeks, or those low-hanging fruits. Anywho, I feel like everything's really starting to compound and layer nicely. And for any of you who are somehow listening to this but not signed up for The Loop, get in there. All of these conversations are inspired by you, which means I'm tracking the actual sessions and notes across all of my different clients and mentees and partnerships. But then I'm getting feedback from listeners and readers as well. And so I'm really hoping to kind of be able to bring all of that together for you. I have this really interesting purview and perspective because I am in so many different places with people who are literally in physically different places, but also different stages in their businesses with different goals. Anywho, it's wild how everybody kind of is having the same conversation. That's why I call it The Loop. We're all looping on the same thing. And so I don't know, it just feels like if you're not there, get in there. And if you want me to talk about anything in particular, hello@NicoleBZ.com. Let me know. I've started to get some really positive feedback from people. So anywho, just wanted to put that in there. People refuse to create systems and structures for fear of being too corporate. But they also are drowning in fucking chaos, and they refuse to do the one thing that would allow them to have time for reflection. Take a day fucking off. And it's delegate. And delegate is not just get somebody else to do something for you. Let's be clear about that. It is allowing your business to support you on your worst day. It's when you don't have to show up and everything gets done well, good, excellent, even. Because you've created an environment where people can be successful. They have the resources that they need. They have the scripts. They have the checklists. They have the performance review. They know what you want them to do clearly and concisely, and they are empowered to do it. And there's no mystery. There's no pop quiz. There's no disappointment on either end. Okay. So that is what I mean when I say build a blueprint for your success, because you, my friend, are going to do it differently than me. We're going to want different things from our people, and we're going to want different things from different people in our place. Like I know I probably talked a lot about this, but I was literally just going through this with somebody the other day, and they were like, no, this person's like giving shy. And we're a pretty gregarious organization. Our culture is really transparent. It's a fully digital workplace. They've got hundreds of employees around the world. He was like, I just don't know that shy is going to do it. And I was like, this is your HR leader. What you were qualifying as shy is probably someone who's potentially an introvert. They're quiet. Their whole job is to listen. Like their whole job is to be trustworthy and discreet. Shy sounds like a personality trait I would reward in that seat. Do I want my lead sales generator to be shy, or my social media and content creator to be shy? No. Or one of my C-suites? No. But also, like, let's dig a little deeper into like what even is shy and what it, like these characteristics, because culturally someone just might communicate in a different style. Anywho, that's a different conversation. Point being, culture, trust, environments for success, how to build, let alone embrace the systems is a different discussion. But let's just accept the fact that when I say system, all I mean is the ability to do something over and over again, to do it without a whole lot of emotional labor, like the disclaimer I'm offering right now, because I know that word, kind of like discipline, kind of like structure, is a 4-letter word for you, because it was for me for a really long time, because we're not here to just be these fucking robots, right? We're rebels, rule breakers, trailblazers, visionaries, creatives. We like doing things different. You might have a little pathological demand avoidance if you're on my spectrum. But also, like, I want things to be easy. And when I know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and when, and the people who I'm relying on in there do too, guess what happens? It's fucking easy. The Harvard Business Review published a piece called The Tyranny of Metrics, and it warned against chasing KPIs that look good on paper but don't drive purpose. So it is really important to look at whatever metrics you're going to put in place and ask, are they designed to empower people or pressure them? Is it results driven or quality driven? Is it time based or is it performance based? And I don't mean performance like showing off. I mean performance like, how can you gauge if someone's truly doing their best? Do they encourage collaboration or quiet competition? So like sales revenue is like, as an example, it's pretty easy to just measure a sale to a transaction in an organization, right? What we're missing there are the 8 other people or touch points that got that sale to the point where someone could put their name on it. So are we rewarding that one individual, or are we rewarding the team for performance and then recognizing, using that accountability just to make sure the individual is doing the sale correctly in the software system, right? So 2 nuanced examples, but interesting in terms of what are we tracking. Think culturally and then find metrics that can celebrate innovation, quality, cultural, behavioral evidence points. I lost it there. Whatever. Imagine if your project management software didn't just track deadlines, but flagged burnout trends. So you're measuring impact, not output. And I can tell you that most of the people that I work with, when I say, well, what's their capacity? What's that resource's capacity, or what's the team's capacity? They're like, what are you talking about? We don't think about, do your people have the space to actually be successful? Or are you just lumping more and more onto their plate because they're sitting at the IT department table. And that's just what IT does. Have you asked yourself, when you put that on your plate, what else falls off? And the answer is often no. I will empower their team to say, help me understand what my priority is. Because if you're asking me to get this done now or by the end of the day, it means I'm not doing the things that are on my checklist. Now, depending on the level of person, we might be empowering them to make those decisions themselves. But then you need to ask yourself, are they getting in trouble for missing deadlines because they made a decision to prioritize the thing you told them, or the thing that the organization and the culture recognizes as the most important? Like a classic example of this is customer service. The amount of times I've watched leadership say to teams, customer service is number one. And when a team member drops the task that they're doing in order to prioritize customer service, and then leadership gets frustrated because that task fell by the wayside, there's a huge dissonance. This is when culture feels like bullshit. Now, if everybody is empowered to recognize, hey, this thing got dropped, this ball got dropped because I felt like I should take care of this customer, rather than that being a failure on anyone's part. And perhaps both things need to get done. Everybody gets to work together to go, oh, that's so interesting. Both of those things need to be prioritized. How can the rest of the team step in and support? And it might just be that employee that dropped the ball going, hey, other team member, I can't prioritize this task at hand. Do you have the space to take this on? I am now passing the baton to you while I take care of this customer. Granular example, but I think you get where I'm going with that. So this might be really fucking cheesy. I encourage you to like come up with whatever verbiage you need to for this, but OKRs, objectives and key results. Let's replace KPIs. And like I said, please come up with a better, not Cardi B inspired acronym for yourself, but connect to the why, not the what. And then lastly, if you're going to use dashboards, if you're going to have everything roll up into some screen, make sure it's important, it matters, you're looking at the things you want. And what I will say to my micromanaging control freak leaders out there that think you're like so creative and like don't give a fuck, please create a dashboard for you so that you're not continually and consistently asking every single person that works for you what they're doing and what the results are and every single thing that they're doing all day long, because that is also a huge waste of time. Okay. So what we're going to get into next is motivation. Now, this is another one that when I ask my people, well, why are they doing this? What everyone's like, it's a fucking paycheck. No, I've got a data point in here about paychecks, but it's less than like 20% of people that are actually just going to work to get paid. And those people are typically in sales. Real motivation doesn't come from dangling carrots or swinging sticks. That's old school. What I mean by that is this is your fucking paycheck or this is your fucking punishment. I'm dangling imaginary things in my hands for those of you just listening. That's control. That is fear-based leadership. That is old school. That is the patriarchy. That is colonialism, all of it, right? Like, this is why when people talk about like the youth and why they're not as quote unquote obedient or productive as us traumatized fucking old people, it's because they're like, no, I want to feel safe at work. I want to feel like my success is accessible. I want to be clear on where I'm going and why, how what I'm doing connects. And those are really healthy questions, my friend. If that shit frustrates you, go back to the beginning of this episode and think about the culture that you are creating, the ecosystem you are building. Real leaders don't bribe or bully, they build. They shape cultures when people aren't just clocking in, right? They're buying in. And if you've ever worked with me, you've heard me talk about buy-in 1,000 times. When you get buy-in from your people, they don't have to like it. They don't want it. They can disagree with it, but they're still willing to participate because they've bought in. Smart leadership builds systems where people want to show up, not because they have to, but because they're trusted, empowered, and connected to a purpose that matters to them. So according to self-determination's theory, the 3 psychological needs for motivation are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. In business terms, people need freedom, feedback, and a reason to give a shit. The best leaders don't micromanage because they don't have to. They activate. They don't bark orders. They build trust. And they don't chase performance, they cultivate alignment. And like the tricky part is, and it's not even the tricky part, it's just the fucking reality. Your people are all going to have different points of motivation. The equation for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, that freedom, feedback, and connection is going to be different for everybody. So I hear you screaming, well, how the fuck do I manage that? And I'm not a people person, and I didn't sign up or start this so that all I had to do was sit in meetings with people all day. You are correct. You empower your people to figure out what that looks like for themselves. We did this a while ago, and I'll include this, Shannon. Flagging Shannon to aisle 4, please. It is oh my gosh, what is it called? I stole this from somebody. This is not my idea, and I'm not going to remember who it was, but I will cite them absolutely in the resource that will go along with this episode as a result. It is a manual, a user manual. I come with a user manual. This is how you work best with me. I tell this to every single person that I hire. I don't do meetings. I hate meetings. I don't like repeating myself, and I don't want to be an asshole. As long as those 3 things like work good, this is going to be amazing. And I typically work with my people for years and years. They break all of the rules that I tell all of my other people, which is unless you pay someone a certain amount of money, you're not going to get a lot of effort out of them. And I think it's because like I'm very clear on how to work with me best. I take a lot of ownership and responsibility. I believe I work for my people, as in like they're my boss. And there's a lot of things I am not fucking good at, which is exactly why I'm hiring my people. And I have a pretty succinct, clear, concise user manual. And I very quickly figure out that level of autonomy that somebody needs to be able to do their job well, but also like recognize they're doing a good job. Like there's certain checkpoints people need, right? And like those checkpoints are more at the beginning, and then less as we get used to each other, and then more when like crazy shit is happening, and then less when like someone's on vacation, and so on and so forth, right? So how do you implement this recipe for success individually for your teams, for your organization? Allow people to own solutions, not just get shit done. So everybody gets to bring their ideas to the table. That's how you create buy-in. And then democratically group select how we're going to do this thing, when we think it can get done by. Obviously, you get to push. That's probably not the right word for this particular discussion. As the leader, you're going to have eyes on factors that your people simply won't have, right? So you're able to sort of inculcate these recipes with your own parameters. I like to think of them as creative constraints. Like, we'd like to take a month on this. We have a week. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean it's going to suck. When your people object and complain, that's what I'm talking about when I say listen. They're not just afraid of risk or like afraid of what's going to happen if they have to go that quickly. No, there's something else there behind that. Why do they feel like this isn't possible? Why do they not have buy-in? Why don't they trust you? That's really what's happening when they object to those creative constraints. So allow that conversation to happen by being curious. We're going to come back to curiosity. So build celebration rituals, and not just, again, like pizzas on Fridays, but how can you help your people? How can you help you understand like problems are proof of success because we're trying different things. The reason I say I don't like repeating myself over and over again is because if I have to repeat myself, it means I haven't created a resource that empowers somebody to get the answer themselves. So I missed an opportunity to improve my own organization, my own systems, my own culture. So that's why I don't like repeating myself. It's not that you listen to this, you know how often I fucking repeat myself. It's that there's a gap and I haven't filled it yet. And I own that because I'm the fucking boss, right? Share real feedback. Exactly what I'm talking about right now. If someone can't tell you what they're really thinking and you not make it personal, if your team don't know how to offer feedback, let alone receive feedback. Now, I get it. There's some people out there that are real sensitive and their feelings get real hurt. That's in their user manual. And yeah, you get to communicate with them in a way that allows them to feel successful. There are a million strategies and tactics out there for that. We've talked about them ad nauseum in other episodes, or look at the Energy Leadership Index. That is a phenomenal way to work with someone exactly where they're at, offer them the opportunity to be successful and see what happens. Okay, we're getting there. Rewards that actually work. I'm actually going to go through this one really quickly. The London School of Economics researched, found out that financial incentives can actually reduce natural motivation, especially for creatives. So what we want to do is reward work meaningfully. Engaged and energized workforces bite off way more than they can chew. They are perfectly happy with an overflowing plate at a buffet, right? They're going to be getting thirds, if not fourth. And it is your job to make sure what's on that buffet is healthy as fuck, right? So ensuring that your team has access to the resources, both physical and mental and emotional, and dare I say spiritual, to be successful is your job. That's the fucking ecosystem, right? So your benefits should tie back directly to your values and also allow people to reward themselves in ways they're going to find inspiring. So you can personalize rewards. So for some of us, it's going to be more time. For others of us, it's going to be more influence. For some, it's going to be a trajectory to success and ascension. Like, how do you know? You fucking ask. Like, this isn't like some bingo card, right? Like, again, the amount of people I've worked with and they're like, but I just don't know why, like what makes them tick. Why not? It's one of the very first conversations I have with people. I know I'm not wired. I should not use myself as an example because the conversations I have with people are awkward as fuck. But anyhow, you can create some type of a currency system, whether it's points, whether it's gold stars, whether it's more complex than that. But you can translate these OKRs, these KPIs, these rating systems, whatever it is. And I know you're all cringing, but like, if you get 100 points and I get 100 points and those 100 points buy you dinner at fucking Chili's and those 100 points buy me 3 hours on a Friday afternoon, like, and we're both happy, please help me understand what's wrong with the points system. Okay. That can also translate directly into like bonuses and incentives. And like, again, what if that 100 points translates into $20? Like, cool. We're all fucking happy. We're all working together. We're all rewarding each other for things that we think are valuable within this organizational culture. Peer recognition. I mean, most of us like a good old pat on the back. And as grownups, we like really don't get a lot of that, right? So create systems where teammates can recognize each other. And I really encourage you to get into like a creative space. Again, you can ask your team. Non-financial perks, like flexible hours, exposure to leadership or mentorship, project ownership. You know, I've seen some really creative stuff out. I mean, people are like doing ayahuasca ceremonies with you. Opinions on that, but that's another episode. Motivation isn't manufactured. It is co-created and intentionally designed. So lastly, how do you lead as an ecosystem architect? Your job is to eliminate friction, clarify purpose, align rewards and incentives, and then like you twist that little fucking battery and let them go. You know it's working when people are getting shit done and they're not burnt out. They're pretty happy about it. There's not a lot of drama. We're going to get into that in a future episode. But this isn't about control. This isn't about robotic systems and meaningless fucking reward structures or like empty culture. This is about how your people feel, truly. If they enjoy and are engaged with their work, your organization is going to be wildly productive and competitive and successful. When you understand the vibes in your organization, you know you're doing it right. When customers, clients, buyers, you know, your partners are feeling that, they're going to want to keep working with you. Pay attention, not just to reviews, but like, what are people really saying? How does it really feel? The social media mentions, emails. Again, as a leader, you're going to have eyes across all of that. And this isn't just about how many stars and Google reviews do you have, but it's like, what are people saying? What are the signifiers of trust externally for your organization? The systems that you're building, these blueprints, right? Like a way to kind of gauge, am I effective as an ecosystem builder? Is where are things slowing down? And then ask yourself why. What is it that people hate doing? What is it that people complain about or offer objections? That's where you're going to see like things getting a little stucky in the mud, in the swamp, in your own little ecosystem, right? That's a real opportunity. Again, the problems are the proof because they are showing you where people are trying something different and it's not, it's being experienced as a problem, right? Like, what is it about that is being labeled negatively? Why isn't this just an opportunity? Why isn't this just a gap that we all get to fill? I want to highlight this for you because I get to with the people I talk to one-on-one. We talked about this in terms of like being the own king or queen or wherever you want to be on that spectrum. You get to create whatever it is that you want. And you have this incredible fucking opportunity to be someone who offers a safe, accessible, empowering, creative space where people can actually live their best lives. Not everybody wants to be a business owner. The smart people sure shit don't. Like some people really like being members of teams who are told what to do, to put it succinctly. Like, God bless them and find them and give them this opportunity that, again, if we're bringing all this corporate brouhaha with us, we've probably never experienced before. And it will feel like a problem because when you initially empower people to think and do what they want and have actual freedom and autonomy, mistakes will be made. And again, when those can be celebrated as opportunities and not problems, like everything shifts. This is that ecosystem. And you get to do that for people. Like some people fucking love their jobs. Some people love coming to work. How fucking cool would it be if you were the one that's actually created that? Like you're one of these organizations that actually does make the world a better place. Like instead of just complaining about everything and all of the bullshit that's going on, like you're one of those people that's actually creating this little microcosm of great. That's real powerful work, my friend. That's energizing. So the last point being like you are enlivening people. You are literally making people feel more alive. I mean, in as much as you can make anybody feel anything, but you get what I'm trying to say here. Like your people are energized, not enduring. They are lit up, not drained. They're living their best lives. And the hardest KPI to measure is energy. That's why I love the energy leadership index and not like shameless plug, but you know, oftentimes people say, well, how do you measure attitude? How do you measure engagement? And it's the way that people are showing up. It's the energy behind the action. And you can measure that. Curious? Listen to the episodes or holla back. So clarity fuels confidence. When employees understand their role, their goals, and how success is measured, they're more likely to feel capable, confident, and committed. Employees who actually feel when they know what needs to get done and they feel like they get to do it and it's connected to their purpose, they're 29% more satisfied with their work. And that results in about 40% higher retention, according to the National Institute for Health meta-analysis on engagement and purpose-driven work. Vision creates velocity. When employees can see where they're going and how their work contributes to something bigger, they move with more ownership, creativity, and urgency. And this alignment between personal growth and company vision is a key driver for engagement. And again, something that I think as bosses, whatever you think about the verbiage, we take for granted. There is a psychological contract that happens when somebody shows up for work. You have engaged in this. I absolutely have engaged in this. Our people are participating in this. We have this invisible expectation around a give and take. And a lot has been loaded on top of that. Again, all of that old corporate, colonial, patriarchal, capitalist, blah, blah, blah. Like we think just because somebody's giving us money, we're owed something or vice versa. If I pay for something, I'm owed something. All of that is being redefined right now, okay? So in that, rather than getting bogged down in what are really big, really heavy conversations, just recognize that you have the opportunity to highlight and showcase that expectation very clearly so that, again, everybody feels very clear, very transparent, very safe, very secure in what is expected here. And I've talked a lot about that as well. There are different ways I think of approaching that. That's not what this episode about. The point is just simply recognizing that we have beliefs around what we're giving and what we're getting in terms of work. And that contract can be a massive opportunity or a ball and chain. So how does it get to be an opportunity? You make it very clear. You check in on it regularly, and you build trust. That's going to be the most motivating exchange of all. We're done. The point being, you don't have to hustle harder. You don't have to eat everything on your fucking plate. You do get to work with people. You do get to build this ecosystem. It can absolutely thrive. You don't need more control. You just need more curiosity. So your challenge is to audit, to explore, to get curious, to go back through and ask yourself some of these big questions. Maybe you've been contemplating that as we've been discussing, and you're starting to understand, like, would I want to work here? Would I recommend a job in my own business to my best friend or my smartest friend? Would I stay if I had other options? If somebody offered me more money, would I stay? This isn't about a revolution. It's join the resilience, not the resistance. Create an environment where people feel safe and seen and supported, and they're inevitably going to be successful. You will all collectively win. Everybody will win because everybody is playing. So that's how we all rise, my friends. And I've been talking. I don't know why I can't see how long this is, but I'm just going to stop talking. So, tell your people, share this episode. Email me if you've got any questions. hello@NicoleBZ.com. Gosh, if you're still here and you watched this, I think you're supposed to like it or subscribe to it, all the things. I love you. Thank you. Bye.